Nigerians, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Hi guys, Lily here and welcome back to Thasmin and Nigerians, the show where I talk about Doctor Who and Star Wars. Right, so it's time I went back to 2021. COVID was still impacting TV businesses and Doctor Who Flux was one of the programmes affected. This formed in a 6-part storyline, usually 10 episodes. This series did get a lot of it didn't get a good reception as it should have, and yeah, but for me, it's an entirely different story. So, prepare for the puns, prepare for the fun, and prepare for some nonsense criticism. Some minor nonsense criticism, my friends. So, let's begin. So, Flux is basically about this thing called the Flux, created by the naughty, the undareable, I have a lot of words to describe this person. Yes, it's Tecton, or as I like to call her, she didn't do what Din did. Treat their children with respect. Yay for Grogu! Back. Okay, so, yeah. So, obviously she wanted to get the Doctor out of it, as per usual. So she sends Swarm and Azura, villains from the Doctor's past, hence the Time of Jail story arc, and to try and sort it. And the Doctor and Yaz are joined by the lovely Dan, Lewis, John Bishop, the Bishop, and they have a big adventure where they try to discover about the Flux. Then the Doctor and Yaz get split up because Tecton is actually talking a lot of nonsense because, oh, she's just so clever. Yes. I said that I was going to be given some nonsense, and I was. So, yeah. And this all leads to this specific amazing moment. Because of the actions of Tecton, Swarm was all paid revenge by getting rid of her, but the Doctor is able to split before they could do anything harm. And so, with their friends, the Doctors and Co are able to stop the Flux with an ingenious thing, the passenger, which actually is a storage thing, as you see throughout the series, especially with the poor die. She got it just at the end. Then, because of this fate, because they did do a deal with time, the two Ravagers, and guess what? They get a good dose of revenge as they're punished for their failure. And we'll get to that because that's very interesting. And Dan joins properly. And is something going on with the Doctor and Yaz? I don't know. So that's basically my summation of Flux. What does Lee think a year after it? Okay, now, I'm going to be honest. It is still probably one of the best episodes of series of Doctor Who, in my personal opinion. Is it overshadowed by the Mandalorian Dominance Series 3? It is. But that doesn't matter anyway, because this is what certain people or series or episodes have got to do going forward. They can't be intimidated by the Mandalorian Dominance. Remember, what was between the Book of Boba Fett and Mondo 2, also two very good, strong stories. So that's the thing. What Flux is telling me is that you can still do a series and still get it right. And yeah, I still think, even though with the Mandalorian Dominance being a big threat to Doctor at the current situation, maybe Ahsoka too, I don't know. The point is, with Doctor Who Flux, what it did was, it did what Series 2 should have done to avoid their problems, because remember, they were in Series 2 was months later, and that hammered the finale quite a bit. Remember the Time of Child? I'm personally not the biggest fan of it. I mean, it's okay, but the rest of you? Overshot? I don't get it. Shovel. Man, what did you do? You've just made it. And that just shows Doctor Who is still vulnerable, even with its the popularity here for me with that. Anything happens. But the point is, with good character work, yes, they did it. Fantastic upgrades, good likeable guest stars. And yes, the only flaw they had, this series has, is of course the newcomer villains who don't have an impact and don't seem to have the Giancarlo Esposito effect, or maybe the Lars Mikkelsen effect, or Royce Hemlock. Yes, him. We'll be talking about him again, my friends. And I know I apologize. I'm putting a lot of but I liked it. So the point is, they weren't like that. So, but we'll get to that in a bit. But basically, I just felt Jodie and Whittaker were at their best. I'm really proud of them. They did really well. I mean, they had to, split up a lot in this, and it takes a lot of guts, especially with Mandy, because she was overshadowed by her compatriots at the time, Graham, Ryan, Brian, Ross, and Tosco, respectively. And guess what? Looking back, it doesn't matter, and we'll get to that too. But yeah, it is a good series. Now, let's talk the Whittakerator in action. Jodie had one of her best performances in Flux. I feel that I connected lots of more. She had a lot to deal with, and it really came across in the performance. And the way she has to handle all these nasty people, want revenge for what she can't remember. She's had to deal with like normal, and she was just too good for it, and it's just the way it goes. And I just felt like Jodie was given the right material. The good thing about it is that she didn't have any problematic scenes like last time with that scene, and then another scene which I've seen on a show kind of shown what they should have done. She's done herself proud, and I feel like, I just think to deal with all that away from her family and kids, I have to give her props for that. And she should be very proud of every performance because that was amazing. One of the biggest turnarounds in the series was Mandy as Yasmin Khan, who finally stepped up being the lead companion. And I think, looking back now, as I said earlier, I think her story makes more sense now. I think Yaz is more a slow burn character, and I think everything is paid off for a reason. She has to lead Dan and a group, and it just shows the fact that the Doctor's taught her a lot of experience. I like the fact that she challenges the Doctor early in the series. I just felt she was definitely used more to her advantage here than she was before. And I think that's the thing. Some characters are meant to be slow burns. I've seen a few characters with one series or two series struggle a bit, but that happens, and sometimes these things happen to allow people like Yaz to shine. And I just love the way that it starts tying up the Thasmin stuff, which we see in Evil Darts, and Mandy did a great job, and I'm so proud to see her come back and bring Yaz into a successive arc of stories. It's Thasmin time! Yes, I can't stop talking about Thasmin. Okay, so this wasn't canon at the time. This was just so the fans believing or could be something. And at the end of the day, the fans will be pleased by the next episode, so, which really is amazing, and I remember that time. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Flux. So they obviously used separation as a theme here. Now, I would have loved more of them together. However, in terms of development and in terms of what they were going for, it works in their favour. It makes their reunions a lot more fun. Well, not fun. A lot more empathic. It just made it work for me as a fan. I just felt for them. The hologram scene is definitely something that I think is heartfelt. Then the reunion, and then the hug, and of course the powers to that hologram, and then of course the ending scene. The ending scene, wow. It was just beautifully done. The emotions, the tension, and the romance. Even though I know we weren't getting that time, and because they didn't confirm it, but people did see it, and it just weighed up for me. And I think from where I was in 2018, when I wasn't seeing it, I didn't see Thasmin. I probably was one of the ones that was a bit too much vocal. But you know what? I had a character journey. I got the romance. I love it. I still love it nowadays, and I think that's what makes it count, because that kind of maybe be first one definitely had potential. So yeah, I just felt it was so beautiful, and yeah, there's just something about it that makes me love it. If people want to check out my first videos on Whittaker. I'll put the links in the description below because they're really great and I recommend checking it out. Bishop time! Okay. I think John Bishop is a talented actor. I think at the time I didn't really give him enough credit because here's the thing, I just think he was overshadowed by everyone else. And maybe my one series companion issue also actually hindered his chances. But when I look at it now, I'm like, I would have loved to see a bit more action from him. I will admit to that. But yeah, she stood out. And I think sometimes Dan is a character that relies on later years. And I think maybe that should apply to other people. But what is the difference between Dan and the other ones is how they're written. And I think a lot of them did struggle and had an error. I don't think John had a particular error, which is great. But I think it puts a lot of pressure on once he's gone forward because how can you top what John Bishop did? I felt bad for him with what he's had to go through. And I think we need that character to feel a bit of sympathy for. But also he gives us that sympathy back and care for other characters. And that's what personally makes him stand out because with Ryan Graham gone, you need that male sympathy thing. And he did. And I like the fact that he was willing to do violence. I like the fact that he was a comedy. But he just made Doctor Who feel like, okay, anyone can do it. And I think John did one of the best jobs he could. And I'm proud of him and I do miss him. Okay, the villains. Well, my main problem with the series has to be, it's not the old villains, because the old villains were fantastic. They were executed well and the best they should be. But when it comes to new villains like the Ravagers and the Grand Serpent, they're just, I feel like they just I don't really like them or care for them, and that's a problem. Because, maybe it's the way they're written, maybe I wanted more. I do think Giancarlo Esposito is a hand in that, maybe Royce Hemlock as well, I don't know. But there's so many impressive villains in other shows that overshadow him, and I think, if I'm honest, they weren't given the Sasha comeback, because Sasha had a great first story. I don't think he was given justice in his second appearance. It was part of the reasons why the episode didn't work, but he came back in The Power of the Doctor and delivered, and did one of his best performances. And I think that's the thing. I just think they were good, but they just didn't have the Rogers, and Rogers just didn't have that moment. I mean, I do prefer Mother Grand Serpent. I mean, Grand Serpent was okay, but also I just didn't get his point in it. I get that maybe taking over things might be, but yeah, you just didn't have that pizzazz. I'm kind of glad of what you got was better than nothing, but it wasn't what, yeah. And then I think with the Ravagers, I'm happy with what they got because, to be honest, it does suit the character, but yeah, I just think they weren't strong. But I'd say with the other villains, there are so many strong, for example, sometimes were good. They weren't their best. To be honest, Cheryl brought them back to peak the way. I mean, yes, they might have been low because maybe Strax, but Strax suits as a one-off. But yeah, sometimes were really great here. The women, as usual, I like the use of the division. I felt they were very great. But I'll tell you someone else who impressed me, and I think people are going to love this, is naughty Tegton, or as I like to call her, the woman who didn't care for her child. Yeah, we're talking about Tegton here. The Tegton is what I like to call the opposite of what Din Djarin is to Din Grogu. Yes, love you, Grogu. Yeah, she treated her, the Doctor obviously, still treats her, and only wanted revenge by his looks just because she was a bad influence. I'm like, what is her problem? I mean, to be honest, I'm glad that she got what she got because it was coming for her, and she messed up completely, and she messed up people who she used. But yeah, she was an interesting villain, and I like the fact to compare her to how her style parent is different to Din Grogu's dad's, Din Djarin's own, and it's fun to do that because they're both different, and it's a shame because why do we compare Badu with other stuff, and that happens, but this is a good circumstance for Tegton, and yeah, but I think Barbara Flynn did a great job of her. I think she did a really good job. I mean, all the villain actors did a great job, but I think Tecton is the one that stands out to me the most. I mean, yes, Survivor's Flux wasn't the best episode. I do think it's overshadowed by the other two, but Tecton was one of the best parts of it. So, yeah, I do think the villains, newcomers, not as strong as the old ones, but hey, look, it's still good. Not the first one. I want to talk about Seeking Echo's sounds again. He has one of the best sounds. Personally, I just love it because I get a more connection, and sometimes with music, you really get a connection to these stuff, and Seekon's music just has that moment. Like, I know there's a lot of people out there currently, like the Kainas who are about to do Ahsoka, and then there's Louis Garrison and Joseph Shirley who have done Mandalorian, respectively, and Seekon still stands out a year later, and I feel like this is what I'm going to miss about him in Doctor Who, because I get people who don't like the stuff, they more prefer Maurice, and that's understandable. I think they're both as good as each other, but if we're talking about Seekon, he just brings something different and makes it stand out and shine on screen. Miss you, Seekon, you did a great job. I'm going to do something different, because normally I pick my favourite episodes from the series, but I'm going to do something different this time and talk about each episode in depth. So, the Halloween in the Cupboard is a good opener. Is it as strong as the previous ones? No, but it's still good. War of Torrents. I think as an historical, this would actually, on its own, just as a tournament, this would have done quite well. I mean, it would have done a much better than what an average Victorian story would do. So, yeah. The ending was the only negative, but I still think it's a strong episode nonetheless. Once it gets to Ravages, that's the problem for me. Once upon a time, this is when it starts to get good. I know a lot of people don't enjoy it, but I like the fact that the Doctor tends to use this heroic move to her advantage, and yes, even though it doesn't work, it does help the story arc. Village of the Angels is still a good story. New use for the Angels, Jodie is amazing. And the ending that finally puts other Damsel endings to shame, it's just amazing to see that actually turn out in you, because it's hard. I mean, yeah, it's a good one. So like I said, Tecton's great. It's good. Is it strong? No. I do think it's stuck between two strong episodes, in my personal opinion. And finally, The Vanquishers. Good ending. Probably one of the best endings in the entire series. Yeah, I get why people don't enjoy it, but for me, I'd rather have this than it being way too overdone. And it does have some great moments, especially the ending, which I think is just as good as the Dark Saber situation in Mando 3. But I've already explained that in a previous video, so we'll leave it there. But yeah, I just think overall, good series, very consistent. Consistent as Mando 3, consistent as the Book of Boba Fett, even though that has one issue. More! Where's Tim? We deserve more Tim. That's Doctor Who, but yeah, very consistent. I think there's some great recurring characters in the series. There is Jacob Anson's Vincent V. Vinder. I think he grew on me, and I still feel like he actually has a more positive effect than he did originally, which is really good for him, and I think Jacob did a great job. I was excited for Freddie Graham as well, and and she still stands out. Other characters I think deserve a shout out. Amber Scully as Claire, Kevin McNally as Jericho. There's so many great, and of course Gemma Redgrave as Kate Stewart. She has just recently clawed her way back into the goodness, because I've always felt she struggled under Moffat, and I think with Chibnall, I actually feel she's is written a lot better personally, because I just loved her more, and I'm glad that she was done a lot better. I think what I love is, I feel like I trust Russell T Davies going forward, because I'm hoping he goes towards Chibnall rather than Monk, because he has made some memorable characters in the unit, but Chibnall doing Kate like that puts me at a right good position. I love Steve Norton, of course, as Williamson. I thought it was really comical. I just love characters that just come in and make absolute funny nonsense, and him and Jericho bring that nonsense, and I love that. And I just think he's amazing. Also, I want to give a lot of love to Diana, played by Nadia Albina. I loved Diana. I felt she deserved way more. I just felt sorry for what she had to part with. And this is the thing. When I see a character like Diana, and she has a bit of a struggle to begin with, and then she comes in and makes a statement, and like, she really made a statement at the end, and I'm so happy for her, because the fact that she had the answer, and I didn't expect that. I didn't see it being the passenger at all. I mean, I just didn't know how they were going to do it, so I think it's really nice that an ordinary woman has the answer, and Nadia did a great job, and yeah. I felt sorry for her and Dan. You never know, could they be together? I don't know, or will they just be friends? That's gonna be another science question, which I think is best, but them two would be amazing together because they have great chemistry. Now, in the previous episode, I talked about the dark side, but being ended very well with a good purpose. And I did mention the Flopwatch one in that episode, but I'm going to mention it a bit more here. I think with this plot, I can see people obviously in wanting to see more of the Flopwatch in it, but if I'm going to be honest here, I don't think you need the Flopwatch to make it extra special. I just think the purpose, and people will obviously have said on Twitter that she doesn't need the Flopwatch. I think knowing that she doesn't need any more to be a better person or know her past, and the way Jodie conveys those emotions when she's talking to remember in that scene, and the emotions, obviously at that point she knew that it wasn't necessary. She shares a tear, and then she gets rid of the Flopwatch by putting it in ties. And I think it's the most important piece, especially with closure, especially to the story. And I just think there's something magical about it. And I think it makes me feel for her, knowing that she nearly cost her friendship. She was reckless. And yes, we know the character can get reckless a lot. We see that in Panels and what happened there. But at this point, I like how she's made the right choice to care about her friends and care about her safety and not care about her past. That is definitely one of Chibnall's best decisions. Why do I think Flux is consistent? Well, for me personally, there's something unique about it. It's different, it's a risk, and sometimes it's not easy to do series like this, but this one worked, and I guess there was some appeal with all the stories, and I think that's very important for a series. I think even though the previous two series have had that with in the Joy year, but this one just had that extra consistency to make it do well. And honestly, I think maybe that's because I felt all the leads also had something to do. Sometimes they time it still had something to do, and it made me think, okay, this is good. So, and I think, yeah, it just stood out a lot more than what it did originally, and I don't think I go with a series like that. They could risk it in the future, but for now, this is the riskiest series, and it won't work for everyone, but it'll work for me. Next time on the channel, I'll be talking about Ahsoka and a little bit about Skeleton Crew. This is to start the hype for Ahsoka, and there will be another big one at some point in August, so stay tuned for that one as well. Once again, thank you for listening to the Thasmin James podcast. I hope you enjoyed hearing my thoughts about Flux. Please comment down below in the comment section what you think about Flux, and comment to me on Thasmin22 on Twitter and on Facebook. I would love to hear from you. Please subscribe to the channel because I really appreciate support and it helps me a lot. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Subscribe to Thasmin and stay tuned for more podcasts. See ya!